Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, the tell-all. Let's watch.
I'm good, baby.
Things were up and down for a while. Why were you so upset with Michael?
I had the sleeve, I had the breast reduction, and so I was really in a lot of pain. And he never checked on me about one time a day. He was just a total ass.
All right, interesting. So throughout this whole season, the big blow-up, her big complaint was essentially that he was neglecting her and potentially cheating on her during her surgeries and wasn't in contact with her. At one point, she mentioned that there were a few days, maybe 3 days, where he didn't reach out to her. And I think by implication, she would reach out to him and he wouldn't answer or something. And you could see that you would be upset with that. But she just said something different. She said, he only checked in with me once a day. How often is he supposed to check in? Now, you can have a preference and be like, I want you to check in with me all the time. But I think most people would say, well, if he's checking in on with, we're talking once a day, I think, that's sufficient. But I think for her, she has traumas around abandonment and has a very difficult time acknowledging that hurt and will instantly transfer that into anger. And I also think, possibly, total speculation, she has trauma around humiliation and around being seen like a fool. She'll often talk about that. You're making me look like a fool. I'm not going to be a fool. When I don't think anyone thinks she is being treated like a fool. And so, but she just confirmed, because I've been wondering, because Michael hasn't really been defending himself. He's not giving us information of like, look, I contacted you every day, or the reason why I didn't contact you during those few days is because blah, blah, blah. Now, if he wasn't contacting her enough, we could imagine that he wasn't because of the way she treats him.
Like, you don't treat people like that just come out of surgery, And then he starts disappearing, going places. And I was thinking, why are you doing this when I'm healing?
Wait, where did he disappear to?
I still don't know to this day. But I'm not no fool neither.
Ding, ding, ding. I'm not no fool. I am being treated like a fool. She sees herself being treated like a fool in situations that I don't know if it is rational to think of herself in that way. And then her way of reacting to being treated like the fool is to make other people seem like a fool, is to disrespect. If you're not gonna make me look like a fool. You're not gonna humiliate me. I'm gonna humiliate you. And then of course she humiliates herself in that process.
If I go out to run errands, or I go to church, or I go to family outings, that's when she doesn't reach me. She doesn't trust me up to 100%. So when I tell her this is what happened, she films about it and say it's a lie.
On one hand, it's possible that he was cheating. He has cheated in the past, so it's possible. But it's also quite likely that he wasn't cheating at all, but she said, so it's interesting, throughout this season, and maybe we'll get into a little bit more specific, she's saying, you disappeared. And he'll say, well, I was with my family, and so you couldn't reach me. But we were hearing in the past how she was saying you're disappearing, and he's saying, well, I was with my family. And by implication, she is accusing him of cheating. But then at the other hand, she'll say, I don't think he's cheating. So what is it? I think it is this fundamental distortion that she is being neglected and abandoned. And she's displacing that from her past onto him, and her way of coping with that is through anger and control.
Okay, well, Michael, when Angela first told you she was getting the surgery, your initial reaction was not a good one. What were you thinking at that time?
When she told me, I said, I'm not in support of it at all. So, because I don't like it.
He was more worried about my boobs coming off.
I don't think that's true. I think he was concerned, maybe he'll clarify, that he was concerned about the possibility of you dying or having medical problems for the rest of your life, which was a possibility. He was also concerned about spending tens of thousands of dollars on something that he doesn't think she needs, and he would rather spend on fertility possibilities. So, it puts him in a really weird position where he fell in love with her the whole her, the whole Angela, and didn't fall in love with her hoping that she would have some kind of, cosmetic surgery. That he fell in love with her. He liked her just the way that she was, presumably. And then she's like, I'm going to get a breast reduction. What do you think about that? And what's he supposed to say? Oh yeah, I always wanted that because I only fell in love with you because I hoped that one day you would actually change your body. We don't want him to say that, right? We would hope that he would say, look, I love you the way that you are. I don't want you to change. So yeah, I'm not in support of that. And somehow he's a big jerk face for saying that?
No, she told you it was for her health, but you still did not want her to get it.
Yeah, I don't want her to get it because at that point, I know I'm kind of selfish about it. But now, there's nothing I can do. I know my wife. Even though I tell her no, she'll still go ahead and do it. So.
All right, so he's not making my case. At least by implication, he's agreeing with what she said, that the only reason why he was opposing it was because he wanted her body to be a certain way and wasn't supportive of the health benefits of what she was talking about. So that's a big yikes to that one. And she would have obviously a reason to complain about that.
He called me fat and I got offended. Over there, to be big is a good thing. It's the opposite of us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's same where I'm from too.
Is it?
Yeah, and I'm one of the kids. I look skinny, and my siblings, my family make fun of me because I don't eat anything.
Interesting. So we're hearing more from Asuelu N about Michael's culture that maybe Americans or some Americans might have a hard time relating to. That for Michael, he loves her the way that she is and doesn't want her to change, and actually doesn't want her to be thin. So, that adds context for sure.
I made me, calm down to accept the surgery.
I really did think that you would take care of me emotionally because it's an emotional roller coaster. And then he started complaining, making fun of me. My are too small. Look, what are you laughing at, Michael? Your boobs are small. And he'd make fun. See, that was very painful.
All right, so she's actually talking about the pain, which is good. She's not transferring that into anger. She's capable of that. On camera, we don't see her doing that very often. And she is saying that he would laugh, ridicule her body, which we didn't see on camera, at least to my memory. And it's possible, I would imagine, total speculation, that she is distorting that because she was humiliated. I've been wondering from the beginning if she has a tremendous amount of humiliation trauma as a child and is now transferring that and distorting that into her life when it doesn't actually exist. And I don't think Michael is capable of that. I don't think he's capable of being like, oh my God, look at you. You're such a fool. You're so stupid. From on camera, he was saying, look, if you want my honest opinion, I liked the way you were before. So, there's that. Now, you would hope that Michael would understand the situation of like, well, she's committed to it, so I might as well make the most of it, which I think he kind of did. Anyway, let's see if he can clarify. Underneath people who are abusive is often a sea of pain that they are covering up with their anger and control. It does not justify the abusive behavior, but it does provide a reason for it. There's often an assumption that abusive people are just evil and they just like to control other people. And those people do exist. They're rare. We might call them psychopaths or people on the antisocial personality spectrum. But usually what's happening is the controlling, abusive individual is in a lot of pain.
So I'm with you now. Don't worry.
But you wasn't.
Okay.
He doesn't
sorry.
get it. Like, he's 33, I'm 55. I possibly cannot be alive when he gets here. All this we put up with, and he's not going to make it because I'm not going to make it.
All right, we're actually... Angela, you could just express this from the beginning. All the yelling, all the screaming, all the abuse. Yeah, but this is fine. You're scared. You're a human being. You have fears. You have worries. this is extremely healthy, and it's okay to express that. She does this occasionally, rarely. And I just think, okay, good, you're capable of expressing your healthy, differentiated, normal human emotions. Just stay in that space, And then Michael, I think, will care, and then you're okay, and you can feel safe.
Chill up, please. It's okay. I'm sorry, okay?
And then for Michael, he's trying, but it's not what I recommend. He's saying, cheer up, don't be sad, don't be sad. It's not a good idea. I always think, as a way of demonstrating how silly it is to do that to someone, if someone is laughing and having a good time, you don't say, be sad, be sad. It's okay if someone is joyful. It's okay if someone is hurt. It's okay if someone's crying. It's okay if someone is laughing. And you wouldn't want to change someone's emotion in the moment because of the way that they're feeling. So don't tell people to cheer up. Don't tell people to stop crying. It's one of the things that I've always sort of, reacted to in movies. Sometimes they'll show us like someone will cry, don't cry for me, don't cry. Like, why not? What's wrong with crying? What's wrong with being sad? It's human. So is that. And then he panics and says, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Instead of just being like, yeah, honey, I'm with you. You're sad and you have pain and I've hurt you, and I'm sorry that you are in pain right now, and let's talk about it. Instead, he just goes for this, I'm sorry, even though I don't think he's legitimately apologizing, which I think we've seen him do in the past.
I just wish you'd have been more supportive.
It's really hard to support emotionally, especially remotely.
No, it's not. All it takes is to show your love.
And then we see the dynamic between Ronald and Tiffany. Ronald is saying, it's kind of hard over, remotely. Yeah, absolutely. And then Tiffany, in her maternalistic way, is like, no, it's not. Instead of just acknowledging that maybe for Ronald it is hard. It absolutely is hard. As a teacher, as a professor, as a therapist, I am sick and tired of the pandemic. I'm sick and tired of remote learning, remote therapy. It really makes it hard for me. Now, I know for some people, it doesn't make it hard for them, and they might even prefer that. But for me, it's very, very difficult. I have a hard time connecting, especially when I contrasted it with meeting with students in person last month. A couple months ago, I actually met with my students in person. I petitioned the university to allow it since we were all vaccinated. And it felt so good, and I was reminded of what being in person felt like. And so it absolutely is possible. And for Tiffany to be like, no, it's not, is indicative of that dynamic that they're both participating in. And it is a good point, one I hadn't thought of, that for Michael, it might have been harder for him than if he were in person, which, I could absolutely believe. Michael has a sort of a surface way of communicating anyway that I think could come across even more surface if they were remote.
Yeah.
Like, to just really kind of neglect him during that time, that's bull.
Now, for Tiffany and or Angela to say, well, I still felt alone during a time of need is also fine, but both can be right.
God!
Michael, do you feel your wife acted appropriately?
He has to do his job. So I felt uncomfortable, I feel so jealous.
I'm sure it was innocent, but it does make me think that if he did that, she would probably be pissed too.
Right. So, yeah, they have a rule, I believe, given their behavior in this relationship, that they're not supposed to do stuff like this. She has imposed that rule on him, and then she goes ahead and flirts on camera with not only another man, but also a professional, which you remember me reacting to that at the time. This is sexual harassment. If you go to illustrate it, you have a guy who goes to a massage therapist, let's say, and he, as a client, says, oh, I'm going to disrobe. Oh, you're going to touch me. Oh, well, maybe I want to marry you. We understand that is awful, right? That is potentially traumatic to someone. Not always, but it absolutely can be traumatic to someone. It can absolutely be an emotional assault, a sexual emotional assault on someone. And she was absolutely doing that to him. And for our culture to look at that and say like, well, it was innocent. That doctor, he's a man, he's okay, is completely wrong-headed. So many men are attacked and assaulted in this way. And we just like, well, it's just men. They're okay. They probably like it. As if men don't have emotions.
Are you kidding me?
There's nothing.
If I was the one that did this, you cuss me out, say all sorts of things, right?
We all.
Okay, why didn't you tell me this
you don't
before?
shut up.
Why didn't you tell me this before? Oh, don't tell me to shut up. Why didn't you tell me this before?
Wow. I mean, this relationship has a lot of problems in it, and we've seen it and talked about it for a long time. And now he is saying, if I did this, you would be yelling and cursing at me. And then she just like says, shut up. Wow. Big yikes.
Don't tell me to shut the hell up.
They all planned this party on a Saturday night at this bar. We went and I started feeling nauseated, right? And I greeted Dr. Obain. He asked me for a drink. I said, no, I don't feel too good. So I said, yes, Skylar, y'all stay here, have a good time, and I'll go back to the hotel.
Okay, so it was innocent, which I can believe. But why can't you extend that to Michael? Now, Michael has cheated in the past, so she has reasons. But yeah, so the hypocrisy is real here. Now, what could Angela say? She could say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. And yeah, I probably would be upset towards Michael if he did something like this. So, I see your point, and I'm sorry for overreacting in the past. Let's see what Angela says.
Dr. Obain heard it. He's a very kind-hearted man. He said, I'll drive you. He's my doctor, for crying out loud. He thinks I might be infection. He took me.
It doesn't matter. Did you tell me?
Michael, it was last week.
Why didn't you tell me he drove you? Why didn't you tell me?
I was sick.
You were
Honest
sick.
to God.
Okay.
So Michael's asking, why didn't you tell me? Because if you told me, then that would lend itself towards less suspicion, but you actually omitted that detail. Why didn't you tell me? And Angela doesn't have a response to that. She says, because I was sick. Well, presumably you've talked in between that time and now, and why didn't that ever come up? Now, we don't need to imagine what happened at the birthday party. We can see on camera her flirting quite openly with this physician, and maybe the other physician as well, but anyway, particularly this one. Then off camera saying, I wish I wasn't married because I would get with that guy. So Michael has a lot of absolute legitimate reasons to be hurt, particularly given the hypocrisy.
I know you. If I go out, you ask what did I do? Every goddamn details. But you now you
Oh,
you
now
didn't say
you
anything.
done it, buddy.
No, don't tell me done it, buddy.
He's making a total legitimate point, right? I mean, all of us can agree on that. And she says, well, now you've done it, buddy. Wow. I mean, just listen to that language. Ronald, you will know your place. There's certain phrases that high control individuals will use, for sure. Very, very scary to me, actually.
Dr. Obain's a very, very caring man, and you need to learn something from him.
Go and marry him then. Rubbish.
Well, thank you for the approval. You're an asshole, Michael.
He's an a-hole because he is talking about how she would be so upset if he did the same, which we can all agree, and that he is hurt and upset that she didn't tell him the whole story, and that he has experienced a lot of abuse for doing nothing often, and he's just pointing out that idea, and he's the a-hole.
Crying out loud. Then you trying to act like me. You ought to be thanking Dr. Obain.
I'm not acting like you.
You know how far I was? It took 40 minutes to take me home. I was sick, Michael. And then I have a good doctor that cares enough to give me a ride home. It wasn't like I asked him to ride me home. It wasn't like he had just offered it. It was he seen I was pale as a freaking goat.
I think Michael's okay with that. It's the fact that you omitted it, and he is now potentially for the first time seeing the footage of you openly flirting with him and off out of the doctor's office talking about how you want to marry him.
You It's none of your business. I've heard you keep putting your
Let her
nose
talk,
in my...
Angie. Come on.
Shut your mouth.
Let her
You
talk now.
always
At
do
least-
this. This is what he does when she's on the phone.
No, let her talk, then you
Didn't
will
your
talk.
brother tell you to tell her to stay out of our business?
So what we're seeing now is a dynamic we've seen before with these individuals. This is Michael's aunt, and the aunt is saying, let's see, what does she say? Essentially, she said, because Sean asked, did you support the surgery that Angela went through? And the aunt is saying, well, I'm fine with it, but I don't understand why she did it, because Michael loved her the way that she was. And then Angela interrupts her and gets into it and it starts to yell at the aunt. And then Michael says, you don't have to yell at her. Don't talk to her like that. And then Angela gets triggered, and she is now in this position where I believe her humiliation trauma is being triggered. She feels as though she's being ganged up on. She's being told to be quiet or to modify her behavior at the very least. And she isn't going to have that. And so this is causing her to use her very frequent defense mechanism of yelling and screaming and not letting other people talk. I'm guessing she's already escalated and there's no recovery from this, and she's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Ironically, humiliating herself in the process, potentially. Well, let's watch.
Then
Say
you will
yes
talk.
or no.
You are cutting her
answer.
off. Let her
Did
talk.
Kinley say Aunt Lydia need to stay in her house with her husband, and you and me
She
work
is
out our own?
explaining. Let her talk.
I have to talk. But if I
No,
see
you're
something
always
going wrong with
cutting
my
me
brother-in-law,
down
I
behind
have
my
to talk.
back.
I'm
You
not talking
talk
behind
over
your back.
there
I'm
in your
talking to
house.
you now.
Don't
And you
point
can
your...
get that.
So the point that Michael is saying is just let her talk. Just let her talk. And for Angela, that's a particular angle of, or subset of the trauma for her is, I think clearly she's been humiliated by people talking over her or something and having power over her. And Angela, sees power and safety in overpowering other people. And abusive people often have that schema that you either are the victim or you're the person who is in power. And if you are listening and being quiet, then you are the victim. And so you need to be in control. You need to be dominant. And that's the only way to stay safe. Let's see if she can relent. I'm guessing she's not going to.
It's
You
not
want him?
ideal, my dear
You
sister.
want him?
It's not ideal.
Tell him. Michael,
I don't
let's
want
do
him.
it.
He's
Right
like
on
a
national
son to me.
TV.
I don't want him.
Because
I'm
your
married to his
aunt
brother,
wants
not
us to
him.
get a divorce.
What are you talking? What you are jumping
Because
into
listen to
conclusion.
what she's saying.
You are not. What are
Listen
you
to
saying?
what
What
she's
are you
saying.
confirming?
What man listens
you are
to their
saying is
aunt?
totally-
So she asked the question, I think, of Michael, saying, what are you going to say to your aunt who wants us to get a divorce? And then Michael starts to say something, and she talks over him and isn't listening. So it's upsetting. I don't know why every time, particularly when she's vulnerable, as she has been during the tell-all, I let my guard down and see, maybe things will get better. And then it just escalates in this way. And so I don't know. It's actually hard to watch because we can imagine what's happening behind the scenes.
Talking to.
Ladies.
You better respect me, woman.
Okay.
That is my husband. That is
Okay.
my husband.
He's your
That is
husband.
my husband.
He's my
And there's
brother-in-law.
nothing
He's
you
my
can
brother-in-law.
do
He's my
about
family.
it, and you
You
won't
have
do
to
about
do what is
it.
supposed
You mind your
to.
own business.
No,
You
I
will
said
not
That. What's all
tell
this?
my husband what to do. These brand new.
Stop it.
What is happening right now? Why is this happening? What's her point? She's just doing her usual yelling and saying, you're going to respect me. And because the aunt is saying, you need to respect your husband. She's saying, no, you need to respect me, and he needs to respect me. And then it reminds me of Arrested Development. You remember, like, look at these, Michael. You're never going to see him again. So is that, I just don't. I mean, usually I can kind of imagine where Angela's coming from. I don't think it's a healthy place or a functional place. But this behavior, see, let me try to take a guess. Is it a way of trying to show off? Is she saying, look at these, he loves me because of these, and I possess Michael and you don't. You don't have these, Is that what's happening right now? What's another possibility? I think that's a legitimate possibility. Another possibility is I'm look at my body and, you know, take in the power of my body, and you will now shut up. That's a less of a, I don't think that that's likely, but it's, again, possible. Is it just some way of garnering attention or something, which I don't think is, well, anyway, that's, maybe she'll explain why she's doing this.
What's all this now?
How do you like that now? You want to listen to her? I'll serve everybody in here, my and you too, Michael. You won't see them.
It is akin to the way that some people will express their anger. You'll see a guy will grab himself or will even whip it out or something and say, like, look at this, screw you. You could even say giving someone the finger is akin to that expression. So I think that's what she's saying, is just like, screw you, I'm gonna... Let me know what you think is legitimately happening for Angela. What's the motivation? What is she hoping? Because that's always with communication, even if we're using nonverbals. What is the hope that the other person will receive? Like, oh, I've just been dissed, or oh, I've just been humiliated, or oh, I have nothing to say to that because the glory of that is... Let me know what you think in the comments, why she's doing that and what's the motivation. What's she hoping the other person will receive?
Again. You too.
All right, well, that does it for that episode in which I watched the tell-all of 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really do.